Archaeologist's log. Day 5. Unveiling the pyramid. I had awoken to discover that the crew had taken their leave of the camp, and were already on their way to stake our claim at the pyramid. Hired sword archer Snon had as well taken his leave to return the horses to the city of Trinzik. And now, late in the morning, and with a certain magic in the air, I too was ready to begin my journey into the treacherous swamp. My body was stiff and sore, I realized, after what felt like eons asleep under the night stars. My eyes had set into the spirit wood, and it almost seemed to ache as I do. Funny, I thought, but with no time to dawdle I switched my gaze back to the trail ahead. Soon, I came across the destitute hamlet of Paws. Its many trees still cold and brittle after an age-old drought had once plagued the vast, now vacant farmlands. Perhaps if I'd had more daylight I could have stopped and visited the local gathering place for clues and insight into the swamp and pyramid, but alas, I mustn't keep the crew waiting any longer than need be. I shall have to revisit this ancient settlement at a later time, I thought, as I approached the mouth of the swamp. The soft pitter-patter of locals and their horses scurrying off as I made my way filled the air. Not knowing whether the hairs on my neck had been standing due to the cold breeze or the eerily welcoming swamp, I pulled my hood under my hat to cover them up and took my first steps towards the structure, now looming in the distance. I leaned over and picked up a large reptilian scale from the bubbling bog. It was green with a hint of yellow. I safely tucked the pristine scale into my belt, and continued. Now descending deeper into the bog, I leaned over and tightened my boots, tucking my long pants into them one leg at a time. I remember thinking just how awful this expedition was going to be. Standing in the muck whilst trying to revive relics of the past with dire precision was not this archaeologist's idea of a good time. Not one bit. The flora in the region, however, seemed to particularly enjoy the wet weather. And indeed, that was why it had been flourishing in the bog. The way had been mostly cleared by the caravan ahead, and thankfully so, as it was a complete understatement to simply say that the flora enjoyed the wet. Rather, it gorged on it, feeding and growing until its stalks were the size of my legs put together in some cases. All of a sudden, a chill ran down my spine as I recalled the Princess of the Jungle's dire warning about dark times. Now, standing in the depths of the swamp, I could see what she'd been saying. If it hadn't been for crossing paths with her, I may have seen it sooner. Onward I walked deeper and deeper into the swamp. Many old structures adorned the poverty-stricken back door to the hamlet of Paws, mostly used as storage for the people there. It had proven to be a rather unexciting day, one that only a true fan of archaeology could see through to the end, but finally, and without any more ado, I had entered the final clearing. With the gargantuan structure now in view, I simply kept putting one foot in front of the other right up until I reached the camp, where Jonas, Martha and Bartosz had been awaiting my arrival. And arrive I had, at long last. There, before me, stood possibly the most magnificent pyramid I had ever seen in all my ventures. My first impression was that this one had truly been worthy of the gods, if indeed it had been built to honor them in the typical fashion. It simply took my breath away.